Greetings of peace, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Good day, colleagues and distinguished participants. Today, we will discuss how public discourse that often frames overpopulation as a defining global concern. Now it become shifted to a different conversation that in many parts of the modern world, the more immediate and measurable trend is the opposite. It's about demographic contraction. We are living through somewhat scholars describe as population emergency, a sustained decline in fertility rates below replacement level across large parts of Europe, East Asia, and increasingly North America. Replacement fertility is 2.1 children per woman. Once fertility drops below 1.5, recovery becomes structurally difficult without major policy shifts or deep cultural change. Below 1.3, demographers refer to a low fertility trap, whether demographic momentum and social norms reinforce continued decline. When fertility falls to 1.2 or even 1.0, societies begin to halve with each generation. Within 2 to 3 generations, population contraction becomes dramatic unless offset by immigration. In Italy and Spain, the scenario remains around 1.2 to 1.3. In Japan, however, is near 1.2. In South Korea has declined to approximately 0.7 in recent data. These are sort of demographic winters, accompanied by economic contraction and also cultural anxiety. By contrast, part of Sub-Saharan Africa historically remained with high fertility rates, often above 4 to 5 children per woman, though these two are declining. Africa, therefore, stands at a critical intersection, demographically young, with a median age under 20 years of age in many countries, yet undergoing a rapid social and economic transition. To frame this more conceptually, some scholars describe this as two bioboses. The first biobose is biological, which stands for the menopause, the natural cessation of fertility within an individual life course. And the second biobose is more interesting. It's about a civilizational trend when entire societies remain below replacement fertility for sustained periods. When nations stabilize at 1.2 or 1.0, they enter what might be termed as a form of collective sterility. A civilization at 1.2 is halving itself each generation. This demographic reality invites a broader question about existential risk. In academic and policy discourse, existential threats typically refer to a catastrophic event like climate change, pandemics, nuclear war, or destabilizing technologies like the AI inventions. Increasingly, however, scholars are asking whether existential risks may also be like this kind of slow and biologically embedded civilizational sterility, the gradual erosion of reproductive capacity, and consequently intergenerational cessation. Within this broad context, microplastics have become a critical research focus. Whether microplastics that has been found in human blood, placental tissues, lung tissues, and reproductive fluids, as we will know further from our esteemed speaker for today, Dr. Papa Kwasi. But again, we need also to find how to disentangle this interdisciplinary research. If the environmental contaminants accumulate within biological systems, and if those systems underpin reproduction, then for sure, planetary health and reproductive health must be examined together as interconnected domains. So this is the rationale behind today's webinar, and our aim is to examine the current evidence base with clarity and with further research that is urgently needed for a human and planetary health perspective. Africa's role in this discussion is central. The continent is demographically young and ecologically rich, yet environmentally vulnerable to global waste flows and industrial pressures. At the same time, many indigenous knowledge systems emphasize the long-term stewardship, often articulated through the principle of considering 7 generations ahead. From a research perspective, Africa offers viable and vital opportunities for longitudinal studies, policy innovations, and context-specific public health research strategies. Now we are honored to introduce the moderator for today's session, Dr. Yuchina Ujeku. Dr. Ishina Ujeku Collins is a medical student at Gullis College of Medicine, Philippines. Originally from Anambra State in Nigeria, he combines academic focus with a commitment to public health advocacy and service management. He earned his certificate as a dental technologist from the Federal University of Allied Health Science in Ingyu. And you can correct me regarding the pronunciation, dear Ushina. And also he has a degree in health education from Nanimdia Azikyu, right?
Yeah, okay, right.
ZQ University, and a certificate in organizational leadership from the University of California, Riverside, and in the health service management from UNICEF University. So as a dentist, Ushina, we would like also to know more from you about the hazards of orthodontics and prosthetics that are applied in those kind of dental procedures. But then let me also continue with your bio that you are specialized in those areas in dentistry from the Federal University of Allied Health Science in Nigeria, and also you had made a significant contribution to this field, and you act as an active member of the American Medical Student Association, the World Medical Association, where you serve as the medical student representative on the steering committee and the American Public Health Association and the American International Evaluation Association, as well as the Charity Faith International Medical Practitioner. So also, let me proceed that currently Dr. Uchina is pursuing a master's degree in public health at Suffolk University in the United Kingdom and a doctoral of medicine as well. Dr. Uchina is committed to advancing global healthcare, and his research interests include public health, emergency medicine, cancer, mental health epidemiology, clinical trials, communicable and vector-borne diseases, cardiovascular diseases, and sexually transmitted diseases like HIV. He also serves as a brand influencer for 5 Braze healthcare initiatives and has been recognized with multiple awards for his leadership and contribution to healthcare and academic excellence, including scholarships for international studies. So there's more I know about Dr. Ushina, but I will leave the floor for him to elaborate more about all his initiatives and the different branches that he has been working on. But then I would also like to focus on the agenda for today's talk. We will have first Dr. Papakwasi, obstetrics and gynecologist, focusing with us on the topic of microplastic and implications on planetary health and human fertility, a talk for 20 minutes. And then we will have a Q&A session for 10 minutes. And lastly, another 10 minutes to discuss research gaps, policy implications, and some closing reflections. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Ushina to take it from there and start the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Muna. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. So, firstly, I don't know, I think I will have to start to introduce our speaker for today, and by name, Dr. Papa Kwasi Opara. Dr. Papa Kwasi Opara is a medical doctor with the Ghana Health Service, medical officer, maternity ward at Teta Kwashi Memorial Hospital. He earned his Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery from the University of Health and Allied Sciences, Ghana, and is pursuing an MPH at Liverpool John Moores University, United Kingdom, and an MBA at Knesford University, USA. His research experience include retrospective studies on cervical necrotizing facilities, national lymphatic filariasis mapping, and case report on maternal health. His interests focus on maternal and child health, global health leadership, and strengthening diagnostic capacity in resource-limited settings. Dr. Wasi, is passionate about health systems, health research and innovation, global health policy, and sustainable development goals through digital technology, in addition to his medical career. He is also a project manager for Love Create Ghana, health project coordinator at Report Outreach TRO, lead speaker for TROSAC, and co-project lead for Happy Monthlies. He has a strong passion for improving the lives of others and has been involved in numerous humanitarian and adolescent reproductive health projects. His tireless efforts and commitment to making a positive impact in his community have made him a respected figure in the field of medicine and beyond. Extremely confident and open to new ideas and viewpoints. Can we just welcome him and as he come to the stage, please? Thank you.
You can unmute yourself, Dr.
Hello, can you unmute yourself? You are muted, doctor.
Hello. Thank you so much,
All right,
Dr.
thank you.
Uchena. Thank you for the introduction. It was quite lengthy, but I'm sure we all got an idea of who I am. And thank you so much, Prof. Mona, for this wonderful opportunity. Actually, this is a very interesting topic. I've been in touch with Prof. Mona for a couple of months just on this topic. Prof. Mona is actually very passionate about the emerging planetary health crisis with regards to microplastics and infertility, especially in the global north, and essentially predicting that in the next 10 to 20 years, the global south might also suffer the same crisis. So I think it's a step in the right direction to have this wonderful discussion. And then it's just quite okay to have people from Africa and also the global north so that we can all weigh in our views on this very important topic of discussion. So basically we are going to review some very important research work that has been done across concerning this very important subject. And then we'll see how the statistics are showing, and then we'll see essentially how we can get prepared as Global South. We can get prepared so that we don't really fall into this planetary health crisis. So I'll quickly share my slides and then we'll set the ball rolling. I just want to use the opportunity to also welcome my boss, Dr. Anna Jiman, who is listening now, just to say hi to her as well. And hi, Dr. Chanel. Thank you so much for being here. And then, yeah, so I'll share my slides briefly. Uh, so please, can you see my slides?
Yeah, we
I,
can. Yes, doc.
You
just a
can
minute.
just maximize the, the slide. You can
Yeah,
share screen. Thank you.
okay. But so what about now, please?
Perfect.
Very okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, so to set the ball rolling, actually others may say that microplastics actually causes a lot of harm. Okay, and then the implications of human fertility is a bit on the low. People would argue that microplastics cause a lot of um, harm to the brain, to the heart, and other structures. I mean, people will think that the least of systems that could be affected would be the reproductive organs. But through this extensive research, we would see that indeed microplastics play a very high role in human fertility. Usually, and in with respect to human fertility, we say that we attribute about 40% of the causes of fertility issues to the maternal to the man, and then we attribute an additional 40% to the woman, and then we leave 10% for other causes, and we leave the extra percentage for miscellaneous causes. But when we go through the various studies that has been done, we could argue that we would like to give a more percentage to microplastics more than the other causes we've been thinking about. So what are microplastics? So uh microplastics are very smaller particles, and then nanoplastics are also like very, very, very smaller particles of plastics. Usually it's just like a breakdown of the plastics that we see around. And so, um, in this little study, well, reviewing this book, we have primary types of microplastic, we have secondary. So usually the primary type of microplastics are usually from the industries. So the breakdown of these industrial pellets, so these very large plastics that are usually broken down into very tiny pieces. These are tiny pieces that we can't see, or we can't even itemize. So these are things that you need like a microscope to actually see these particles. Commonly to the, as I said earlier, there are fragmentations of larger plastic. So any kind of plastic at all that we see in our environment has a little of microplastics. Is the breakdown of these bigger plastics. Those are microplastics. And then usually the name goes hand in hand. So we have microplastics that are commonly called MPs, and then micro and nanoplastics that are usually called MNPs. So they are found everywhere in our everyday life. I remember this week I was served uh, a bowl of food in a takeaway pack, and then they had to separate the stew into a smaller plastic. Now, what happened was that because the stew was very hot, it had kind of melted the plastic and deformed the shape of the plastic. And I was like, wow, this is something similar to my discussion today, because now we are talking about microplastic. We are talking about the harmful or the toxins that can come from these plastics. And then I'm being served a bowl with steel, which has actually, and the plastic has been transformed. And I'm like, wow, this steel is going to contain a lot of microplastics. So, I mean, because we are advocating for this, I gently just placed the steel somewhere, and I found an alternative steel to supplement my food. That's just by the way. So, as I said, microplastics or micro and nanoplastics are found in our everyday life. And then the reason why we talking about the whole planetary health risks is that there has been an exponential rise in the production of these plastics, especially in the global north. Almost each and every day, people are making products, especially from China, from Asia, and most of these products contain plastics. And at the end of the day, the issue about plastics is that plastics degrade, but they don't totally break down completely. Essentially, when they break down, the product we find is the micro or the nanoplastics. That is contrary to other forms. That is why some countries have really taken bold decisions. Countries like Rwanda have taken bold decisions to be plastic zero, meaning that they don't allow any plastics in their country. They have totally banned plastic use in their country. And I think it's evident in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm sure there will be more people saying that probably the exponential rise of plastic production in Africa, maybe in Rwanda, the effects of these plastics or the causes that we are going to talk about, or that planetary health risk in Rwanda compared to other countries would be significantly very low. So, you know, because there are lots of plastic produced and the fact that plastics can't degrade, and now with regards to the environment, essentially we cause pollution, okay? And essentially the effect of that is that if the more we produce plastics, the more we are not able to let go of plastics. We as humans, we face the consequences. And then, I mean, we will go through the various ways by which we come into contact with these micro or nanoplastics and then the effects on our health. But most importantly, we would address our topic for discussion, that is with regards to human fertility. So this was a study that was done by Gerardo and co. Also looking at the planetary crisis in context. Okay, and then based on this study, it was showing that the plastic pollution intersects with biodiversity collapse and extinction risk. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of risks from the breakdown of these plastics that essentially is putting our health at risk. And so this study was done to show that essentially microplastics may be a form of systemic planetary suppressors. And then if we give microplastics the opportunity, essentially most of our health burdens, most of our health conditions, we would now attribute it more to these microplastics. And I'm pretty sure that if we do not actually rise up and then really find solutions to this emerging planetary crisis, now causes of conditions would divert more from genetic causes to more environmental causes. So it's just in the step in the right direction that this article was talking about the fact that this is it's alarming, and so we have to pay attention to it. So as I said, this was also another study showing the human exposure pathways. Microplastics are everywhere. We find microplastics in the water we drink, in seafood, in salt. Also, through inhalation, we find it in airborne fibers. And I think, Uche, later, Uche, now I'll ask your thoughts on how these medical or these dental materials that are used with regards to the teeth, these plastics, maybe if there are any studies showing that these plastics also contain some kind of micro plastics that may be harmful to our health as well. So I'm sure I would engage you furthermore
Okay.
in that. So now to what microplastics mainly does. And so microplastics, usually we have the bisphenols A and then the phthalates. These are the very tiny, minute broken down pieces of plastics. These are the main components. These are the toxins that are found in these plastics. Now, what they do is that they trigger oxidative stress and inflammation. We know the mitochondrion is responsible in cells and tissues are responsible for the energy. They produce energy in our cells. Now, these microplastics essentially, and I mean, they can find themselves anywhere. They can find themselves in the brain, in the heart, and even with our reproductive organs. So you can find microplastics in our sperms, in our ovaries, in our hormones. So what they do is that they trigger oxidative stress, and these oxidative stress essentially leads to production of ROS. These are reactive oxygen species, which are very harmful to these cells. Essentially, what they do is that they kill the cells gradually. So these micro plastics, like the phthalates, they affect with regards to the eggs or with regards to the sperms or the production of sperms. They affect the hormones that help in the production of sperms. And in females, they also affect the hormones that help in the production of the ovaries. Essentially, they disrupt the pathway of the production of sperms and the production of egg from the females. And so they are usually termed as endocrine disruptions. Um, and as I said, when they cause this oxidative stress, essentially they kill the energy producing centers and potentially they cause cellular damage and then they damage these DNA. So that is basically the mechanism of action with regards to the fertility pathway. There are other pathways with regards to the brain, but essentially they do the same thing. With the brain, they also cause they trigger oxidative stress, and essentially it leads to production of ROS, that are reactive oxygen species. Essentially, that leads to destruction of brain cells. And then in the heart, the same mechanism is also there. So with regards to the fertility, it affects the production of sperms. With regards to the female fertility, it also affects the pathway that leads to the production of later in the presentation, we'll see the other effects of these microplastics. So just to give a view of the what is happening in the globally, we notice that fertility rates have declined right from the 1950s to currently. So we've seen a decline from 4.8 to 2.2. And then most of us would like to attribute this to the fact that probably it could be as a result of the economy, the fact that people do not want to give birth and all that. But scientifically, we'll look at um, we'll try to explain why or what will some of the reasons be why we have this declining um, fertility rate. We would also look at this picture. This is a picture showing the fertility rates across the globe. So we'll see that in the global north, in Europe and in Russia, fertility rate currently is about 6.3 million per year. That is quite on the lower side compared to Nigeria. So we are trying to say that the whole of Nigeria fertility rate is even more than the fertility rate in Europe. I think this is amazing. And this is not because maybe in Africa or in Nigeria, people just like to have children. No, maybe it could also be as a result of what we are all talking about. So in the global north, there's high production of plastics, and essentially high production of microplastics, nanoplastics. That puts them at a very high risk. Almost everything in the global north is made up of plastics. And as I said, plastics do not degrade. When they degrade, they become microplastics and they are very toxic, or they form toxins in our body if we come into contact with them. So this is just a clear picture showing that there has started declining in fertility rates in the global north. And so we could anticipate that in Africa or in the global south, should we not take a step, this planetary crisis is going to hit us so bad. And then now we'll see that we'll have alarming decline in our fertility rates. So this is was also an interesting study that was done by Lydia and co. So it was Lydia did a scoping review. So they synthesized 40 original studies trials which involved microplastics and nanoplastics. So the outcome of their study, they noticed that micro and then nanoplastics were detected in the breast milk, in the placenta, in the ovaries, in the semen, in the blood, and in the urine. And they also noticed that humans ingest about 74,000 to 121,000 particles annually. And I think these numbers are very, very huge. Now, before this discussion, I'm pretty sure most of us thought microplastics just deposit in our brain or in our heart. But this was a very interesting scoping review that was done by this group. And now we've seen that microplastics can be found almost everywhere in our breast milk, meaning that our newborn babies could also be at risk of ingesting microplastics in the placenta, meaning that when these microplastics are found in the placenta, and if they cause this oxidative stress, or if they trigger this oxidative stress, it could lead to cell damage, and essentially it can affect the growth of the fetus. And I've mentioned the effects with regards to the ovaries, the semen, and then later in the subsequent slides we'll see the main effects of the reproductive system. So this was a very interesting study that was done, and then I've shared the reference. So maybe after this we can all have a look at the whole article. Now, as I said, with regards to the mechanism, so usually they cross the biological barriers, so the brain and the cells, so they disrupt the sterogenesis. That's with regards to the hormones. They trigger inflammatory signals, and then they interfere with the cellular energy, as I mentioned, with regards to the function of the mitochondria. So with regards to male fertility, this was also another study that was done. I've shared the reference. So we noticed that the implications of the male fertility, we noticed that it causes testicular inflammation and hormone imbalance. These microplastics, as I said, are endocrine disruptors, and we know that with regards to the testes, they contain the major, or the testes are contains testosterone, and these are the major hormones that help in sperm production. So essentially, these microplastics destroy these hormones, or they disrupt the function of these hormones, and so we have its effects showing in the quality of sperms that are being produced. And we would also notice that in the global north, there's a high rate of low sperm count, and also issues of infertility with regards to sperm production. And with regards to the females, as I said, microplastics affect the endocrine system. And then we know estrogen, progesterone, these are the main hormones that help maintain the female reproductive system. So these microplastics, when they are found over there, they also lead to ovarian dysfunction and impairment of the oocyte quality. And this was also a study that was done, and I've shared the references accordingly. So other studies were also made involving human. So I've shared the references as well, but sample human species like rats were sampled. They were injected with these microplastics, or these nanoplastics, and they were observed in the lab. Before these plastics were injected into them, they took account of the various levels of the hormones, and they took account of um, the functions of the testes and the quality of the sperms, as well as the quality of the oocytes. Now, after ingesting these microplastics in them, after about 6 months, they noticed that there has been a decrease in the sperm production, sperm quality. Also, with regards to the female species, there was there was also a decrease in the oocyte quality. So there's serious evidence of these harmful effects of these microplastics that has been done in animal species. There's a bit of a limitation with regards to the human evidence. It's not quite easy to get the consent of humans to participate in these studies, but I'm pretty sure that since these microplastics are becoming more of a planetary crisis, more studies are currently or will currently be conducted where we would see that more humans show interest in this study. And I think that would be very good for us because then if we sample the humans, we'll be able to have the right picture or see the real effect of these microplastics. But of course, it has to do with ethics and it has to do with consent. So, I mean, the more there is education on these crises, I'm pretty sure that people would easily give in and then be available for this study. And so most of these evidence that I gathered were from the global north. That is to say that we have limited data in the global south. We from Africa, we have limited data on these issues. So just to say, or just to also encourage most of us, since we are mostly researchers over here, this is an area of great concern. We should actually take this global issue up. We should, wherever we find ourselves, we should try and then invest more into this kind of research because this area of microplastics and infertility are issues that people do not pay attention to, but actually it's an area that should actually be looked at. So there are barriers that we came across in this study, barriers that affect um, or that affects the progress with regards to we curbing this planetary health crisis with regards to evidence from the translation gaps, as I've mentioned.
You'd like to call
As
Francis?
I've
Okay, I won't do it.
as I mentioned, sorry, as I mentioned in our earlier slides, and then the fact that the government, most of the countries, the government do not pay attention to these effects of these microplastics. But I'm pretty sure that with education, with eye-opener conversations like this, we'll be able to fill all these gaps. And then risk of communication challenges as well. So, I mean, essentially, we have to do more research into these microplastics. We have to talk more. We have to advocate. We have to really, really spread the news out there. So with regards to, we've talked about the alarming effects of these microplastics. Essentially, what we can do to reduce these effects is to reduce the single plastic use. I'm pretty sure we'd all like to be like Rwanda, a beautiful country that has zero death. It's one of the neatest cities, Kigali, in the world. We will try to emulate what is happening in Rwanda. So we try to limit the use of plastics and find alternate way of I mean storing our foods. And then we also noticed that there has been some research with regards to this particular plant. I'm pretty sure we are all familiar with moringa and then benicasa. These are very important plant medicine. I mean, those in tropical medicine could attest to the fact that these moringa has a lot of health benefits to the human. So, alum is usually used to remove dirt from water. So this study was done where they introduced these moringa plants into water, and they noticed that the level of detoxification compared to alum was way, way greater, about times 2. So where the study was done, there has been subsequent experimental studies where they now advocate the use of moringa to detoxify the water that they produce. So I'm pretty sure we can also look into these plants. So to conclude, we can now appreciate that, I mean, there might be a lot of causes of infertility in humans, but I mean, after this discussion, we have been opened to the fact that we should also consider the effect of these microplastics. And that could essentially not only be found in our brain or in our heart, but also in our reproductive system. And we've mentioned that these microplastics are endocrine disruptors. They potentially influence gametogenesis, hormonal imbalance, and pregnancy outcomes. So, essentially, while the causality of infertility, as I mentioned earlier, in the traditional way, used to be 40% from male, 40% from female, and other 20% for the others. We've seen that there's more evidence, there's more justification based on current toxicology findings. So we have to research more, we have to do more studies, we have to put more articles out there so that we can actually spread the news about this effect, this harmful effect of these microplastics in our bodies, essentially, or most importantly, with regards to our fertility. So these are the references that were used. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Papa Kwasi. Thank you so much for this wonderful elaboration on this. I really appreciate your time and everything that you said. So, I think I have to talk about a little bit about the dental area and how microplastic have really reduced fertility as well. So starting from in dental areas, we have different departments. We have the orthodontic, we have the prosthodontics, we have the preventive. So I will be talking about them. So when it comes to the orthodontics, we use all these we call them braces. If you notice, it's made of wires, and in the compositions of all these things, you can also get all these something like polyethylene PU. And when they use it on your teeth, few days, and definitely there are saliva entering your mouth, there are particles entering your like your body, and you found out that this thing can also affect fertility, as Dr. Pakwasi said. So when it comes to dentistry, all these things can originate from degradation of dental materials. In dental materials, we use a lot of dental materials. There is one called that is POP, we call it dental POP, and all these things are used in fabrication of dentures. What I mean by dentures are artificial teeth, because it go through a lot of process. When I mean a lot of process, starting from the materials that you can use, we use acrylic, which we know that acrylic has poly on it. That's why it is called polymethyl methacrylates. We call it acrylic, monomer and polymer. So when you get the two, you mix them together. These are polymetals. And when it is used on you, when it's like degrades, that means that a lot of them will be broken into a tiny pieces and they will enter into your body system. So also, wear of orthodontic appliances as well, polishing and drilling of resin-based restoration. So in this part, we do like what is called polishing. After producing all those dentures, for instance, the artificial teeth, it does not come out like flashy. It doesn't come out so beautiful. I don't know whether anybody have tried using artificial teeth. So when we do those production, it doesn't come out so beautiful like that. So we have to go through polishing of it. And when you keep on polishing those things, the little tiny particles are falling away from it. Sometimes we don't really clean everything properly well. And in the polishing of it, it also contributes as well. Even the abrasion from toothbrushes and toothpaste as well. So all this particle can be ingested. It can enter through wastewater and accumulate in tissues as well. So when it comes to the orthodontic part, we use materials that we use in orthodontic procedures are more of polyethylene, PU. We also use polycarbonate as well. We use polyethylene, terephthalate, glycol as well. All these are poly, silicone elastomer as well, and acrylic resin, the one I mentioned in the production of denture, like artificial teeth. So it is called acrylic resin. In the full name is like PMMA. We call it short PMMA, meaning polymethyl methacrylate. So the risk factors of this or using this is mechanical wear for mastication. Mastication is just like the informal name for grinding, like chewing. That's mastication. Friction between aligners and teeth, saliva degradation, release of microplastic fragments as well. So in the prosthodontic part, the materials that are used is we use the acrylic resin in the orthodontic area, and we also use it in the prosthodontic areas as well. We also use polyethylene dimethacrylate as well. All these things are materials that you can really find micro particles as well. You can find a lot of hits on those parts of materials that we use in the restorative dentistry as well. These are the like restoring your dental function. In the restorative dentistry, we make use of composites, like people go to fill their teeth, and in those filling of teeth, we make use of materials. We make use of all those kind of materials that can affect, as we are talking about, that can affect fertility as well. So, and so on. So these are the three most important areas in dentistry that you can find nanoplastic on this. Thank you so much. I don't know if anybody have any contribution to add to what Dr. Papa Kwasi have said already.
First, I would like to thank very much Dr. Papa Kwasi for the rich and informative presentation that really goes beyond reproductive health to major topics regarding public health policy and also trajectories regarding how to detox from microplastics, like the case of moringa and herbs as natural things to detox our bodies from these kind of depositing and non-soluble particles. So I'd like also to add that even some other indigenous herbs like seaweeds or cayenne pepper or even spirulina, that's very popular in Africa. And I guess Percival can also say more because this is his specialty as a nutritionist. And I'm so thankful for you, Dr. Oshina, for highlighting how microplastics hazards are there when we are doing any procedures for in the dentistry discipline. So the floor is open for any questions to Dr. Papakwasi or Dr. Oshina. And I think the topic is so broad and multidisciplinary that whenever we try to find the common ground about things that really harming our biology for plastic use. So I wonder if Tajuddin Yusuf, he has any contribution. I see you unmuted.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Papa Kwasi, for that presentation. Good evening, Dr. Mona. Good evening to every other person in this meeting. So I was initially from the start of the meeting, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to participate, but thank God I was able to join the meeting. And to be honest, I've learned quite a lot from the presentation. So so I really, okay, sorry, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Okay. So thank you once again for the comprehensive presentation, and I really appreciate that. So as an epidemiologist, so I really appreciate how you were able to link environmental exposure microplastic trends with this fertility transition and its distribution across the globe. So I really appreciate that. So by bringing together toxicology, and population fertility data. So one thing about me, I always, or let me say epidemiologist in general, so we like data. So we always appreciate you backing your evidence with data, and this is really nice to see. So, but there is this part when you were trying to, you highlighted decrease in fertility in global north, coupled with higher exposure to microplastic and endocrine disruptors, if I'm right. So I understand the fact that, yes, the correlation is actually compelling, but I would like to mention that I think fertility decline in developed countries, let's say the likes of Europe. So I think I came across some publications whereby they identify that the decline in fertility was strongly driven by delayed in childbearing, because if we compare the childbearing age in developed countries to all these LMICs and developing countries, we realize that there is a decline, there's a delayed childbearing in most developed countries, and other factors like education, economic factors. So maybe, but the question I really have is this: how is there a way for us to distinguish between biological subfertility and social behavioral drivers of fertility? What is causing decline in like, let me put it this way. Have you come across any cohort study that is able to like find a link between a microplastic burden in the body, that is able to link it directly to infertility diagnosis? Like, have you come across any cohort study that is able to like find a link, that is able to establish that link between the microplastic burden in the body and then with infertility diagnosis? Do you get me right, please?
Yes, I get the question. So I showed in the scoping review that was done by Lydia. So can you please see the slide? So this was much more evidence. This was one of the few articles I came across, and then of course it's from the global north, just because there's much limited data in the global south. So these scoping review was able to synthesize 40 original studies that was done majorly in the global north, and this is much more evidence because these microplastics were found um, in most of these studies, and then it was attributed to the causes of infertility in these participants in these studies. So this is one of the evidence that was found with regards to preparing this discussion. Yeah. So as I said, I've shared
Okay. Maybe
reference.
I'll have to revisit. I'll have to visit the scoping review and try
Yes,
to
yes,
read the
absolutely.
complete paper. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I also realized that one of the major problems that we face regarding in trying to check for the correlation between microplastic and infertility is maybe there is limited, or maybe we lack those response curve in humans. So, and at times these are still some of the challenges that we keep facing, but then what I will do is I will try to check the papers and learn more. So thank you so much for your presentation, and Thanks for answering the question.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the question.
I can see Dr. Chanel's hand. Please, Dr. Chanel, yes, you can unmute.
Thank you, Dr. Mona. I'm trying to put on. Thank you, Dr. Papakwasi, for that interesting presentation. Very interesting, and I also just have, I feel like I do have some opposing opinions, so I just like just to put that across. I mean, a part of me is thinking, why are we concerned about infertility in Sub-Saharan Africa? I understand microplastics are an issue. I agree with you 100%. But I'm just wondering, why are we concerned as a Sub-Saharan African, group of people, why are we concerned with fertility issues when we don't have such issues? What's the alarm to be like, oh, there's a decline in fertility in Europe and let's say Asia, and we should watch out for that as Africans so that that doesn't happen to us. Whereas for us, I feel like we should actually be talking about reducing that. We mustn't even be concerned about, that we're going to be facing this kind of a problem. Yeah, so that's one thing I was just thinking about, because I mean we still have a lot of behavioral work that we need to do with our men in our society, where we have men that have a couple of children everywhere, not taking responsibility. So I don't think we should be concerned about I think we should be concerned about not bringing children in this world as a people in Sub-Saharan Africa. So I know my thoughts are a little bit controversial, but that's what I wanted to say. But also, I was interested when you were talking about studies in humans, because you mentioned that there's studies that have been conducted in animals, and there's an interest in doing studies in humans. I'm just wondering how that will take place. Is it I reckon there'll be a lot of ethical considerations. So I'm trying to understand how that will play out. Would it just be taking different samples from men and women and looking at the ovum, for instance, for a woman, and the sperm in men, and watch and sort of have a longitudinal study and observe them over a period of time? I'm just wondering, what that would look like, if you're able to answer. Yeah, and also lastly, I was looking at, I mean, apparently there's the recent research that just states that apparently the ovum, the quality of the eggs do not deteriorate over time. It's actually the quality of sperm that is able to mutate, and the quality deteriorates over time because sperm is constantly being produced, and then there's more chances of it being for mutation to take place. So I'm just wondering, I feel like that would be more of a concern for men in terms of the sperm quality being impacted by microplastics or nanoplastics. But again, I understand that the microplastics and the nanoplastics can travel all the way to the ovum, so they can probably interfere with the ovums as well. But yeah, so thank you. Those are just my reflections slash comments. Love to hear from you.
So thank you so much, Dr. Chanel. I mean, I can agree with you that we are looking at how to actually decline fertility rates and all that. This in particular is with regards to the fact that in Africa, we usually attribute issues of infertility to spiritual, religious, and other issues. As much as we want to curb fertility rates, there's also a group of women who are battling with fertility. In Ghana, I could say that there are about 10% of women who are looking for alternative ways of achieving fertility or giving birth. There's people have tried IVF and other forms of ways in order to have a bouncing baby boy or a bouncing baby girl. So this is more targeted to some of these populations. As much as there's a bigger country with people who have a larger population of people who are producing, there's also that smaller group who are battling with issues of infertility. So just to remove the narrative that maybe it's because in your family we do not we have fertility issues which are more spiritual. We're trying to prove some of these things scientifically. Even in my facility, there are a lot of couple who are trying very hard to achieve pregnancy, but sometimes they don't have all the answers. And then I want us to move the narrative from linking it to a more spiritual aspect to a more scientific approach where we are also looking at the other potential causes of um, this infertility. So I agree with you that we want to achieve a more declining fertility rates, but um, this also is an eye opener to some of us who are in that group where we really want to achieve fertility, but we are not getting there, so that we also have to tackle some of these scientific causes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chanel and Dr. Papakwasi. And I can see Menzi's hand. Menzi, you can unmute yourself and share.
Good evening, everyone. Please excuse me for not turning on my camera, but I assure you it is me. Thank you very much, Dr. Akwasi, Papa Akwasi, for your presentation. I thought it was quite illuminating. It kind of reminded me also of an article I read about 3 weeks ago about microplastics in the water that we drink, in the water bottles specifically. I don't know if I shared it with the MRN group, but I read an article about microplastics and nanoplastics in the plastic water itself, especially the water we drink, we keep, in our houses. We buy water these days to drink because the water from the taps is no longer very clean. So thank you so much for that, and also providing someone is calling me, providing a study. I would urge you, I think it was Tajuddin, I'm not sure who spoke after you, who said that if you could provide a little bit more evidence, and I think what Chanel is also saying is if the evidence could be more based on human tests, on research amongst humans. I know as she mentioned, there are ethical issues that are involved with that, but going back to the very same study about the water, the nanoplastic, cancer-causing nanoplastics in the water, I would assume that I'm going to look at that article and see what kind of evidence that they actually present, because I think it was a scientific paper. It was a newspaper article, but it was based on an actual, I think, peer-reviewed scientific paper, and it was looking at Southern Africa, to be specific. And then lastly, I would like to add to the issue of infertility in various areas. Here in the world we live in this globalized world, let me put it like that, and I'm sure there's another word that I can use, but in this globalized world, there are people who speak about the West's, especially multinational companies and certain entities and groups who are spending a whole lot of money to promote not just infertility in Africa, but to promote the idea that it is our growing population that is the problem with the world, when it is actually the inverse. By the inverse, I mean that it is the way the world is managed and the way food is managed and the way space is privatized and managed by imperialist powers that is causing the kind of, I'm not looking at here what Chanel is talking about when she speaks about the ethical issues. It's a different study. It's a different issue. The fact that there are people who give birth to children that they don't take care of. That's a different topic altogether. But the issue of whether overpopulation is an African problem or a Southern Hemisphere problem, there is also a political question that needs more further interrogation, because it has a lot to do with imperialist ideas of how poverty mentality is constructed and how resources are distributed and extracted from certain parts of the world. Just lastly, in the Congo, I have a friend from the Congo who was talking to me about the fact that in the Congo, they are struggling with infertility squarely based on the amount of not just vaccinations. This is pre-COVID stuff. She was talking about the fact that the vaccinations for polio, vaccinations, the multiple vaccinations that they've been subjected to by multinational companies, including some UN-based or WHO-based interventions. It has been proven. She was talking about a study. I need to be able to share these studies later. She was talking about the fact that they are struggling with a kind of depopulation. But someone looking outside, looking in, would say, no, but the Congo is in poverty. The Congo is in, the DRC is struggling with all these issues because there's way too many people and not enough space, not enough food, or not enough, wealth generation to assist them. So perhaps we need to look at these things from a very multidimensional perspective, and also be wary of hegemony, the West's way of telling us, okay, this is the best way to regulate your wealth. You need to reduce your population, reduce this and that, reduce this and that. But they're not talking about reducing theirs, because on CNN the other day, there was, I'm sorry, I'm going on and on, but on CNN there was a whole documentary about very low birth rates in Norway, in Sweden, in Scandinavia, in Japan, in some places in the East and Europe specifically. They were talking about the fact that their birth rate is so very low. But so perhaps there is a nuance there that we should look at. But anyway, thank you for the great presentation. And I think, yes, it can benefit from a little bit further evidence beyond that one article that you shared. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Menzi. And also I can see Cassandra. Please, Cassandra, yes, you can unmute and we can listen to you. Please just identify where you're coming from and your domain of research. Yes.
Hi, good evening. I'm Cassandra Ofori, and I'm a physician assistant intern at Tetekwashi in Ghana. Currently working with my boss, Dr. Papakwesi Opare. So I'm glad I was able to join this meeting, and I'm thankful for this insightful presentation. I just want to say something about Dr. Chanel's first opposing thoughts. She asked why we are talking about microplastics and fertility in Sub-Saharan Africa when we don't really have that problem. And I want to say that we are in a world or in an era where there's interracial marriages. People from affected countries where microplastics are affecting their fertility are getting married to people in Sub-Saharan Africa, and so that can potentially in the future affect us. And there's also migration. People are moving to the affected countries. They're also moving from their countries to our country, and that in relation, when we go to their country and we eat their food, drink their water, relate with them, we're also exposed to their microplastics, and that will also potentially affect Sub-Saharan Africa So I think it is important that we pay much attention to this, even though we are not affected now, but we pay attention to this to avoid Sub-Saharan Africa being affected by the effect of microplastics on fertility. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful addition. And the floor is open. You can also ask Dr. Papakwasi if there is any further elaboration in any part of his talk. And perhaps even we can think more positively about the detox strategies. Dr. Papakwasi said about moringa. I would like to channel this conversation because it makes us end the conversation here on a positive note that there is always a solution, and the solution lies in our indigenous knowledge, wisdom, and also in the herbs in our lands. So I wonder if any of you have any experience with these herbs. We mentioned about moringa, just the cayenne pepper uses spices, seaweed, things rich in iodine, because usually the thyroid gland suffers a lot from the PPAs loaded directly to the thyroid gland, and thus seaweed and spirulina, all these green herbs, they usually detoxify the thyroid gland and therefore the hormones as a whole. Any experiences, or Dr. Papakwasi, did you try to manage any clinical cases from that perspective?
So, yes, Dr. Prof. Mona, yes. As I mentioned, microplastic and nanoplastic effects are more holistic with regards to the human body. So, I had an experience with regards to people with brain conditions and heart conditions where we advise them to take moringa because these are very these are plants, these are herbal plants that are very beneficial to the heart as well. But with regards to fertility, I'm yet to really advocate on that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Papakwasi. And I can see also Dr. Oshina, if you have any further additions dealing with the dentistry and all the tools that you use for this, and how you can reimagine using less of these for, protecting more against microplastics.
Okay, let me talk about when Dr. Papa Kwasi mentioned Moringa, I really concur because I'm this kind of person that really look into herbs so much. When it comes to herbs, I look into it, and let me talk about my own country. In my country, Moringa does a lot of wonders. Like Moringa does a lot of wonders in my own country, Nigeria. That herb, Moringa, it does a lot of wonders. So immediately he mentioned Moringa, I really did not object to it. Though there is no clinical evidence yet that Moringa can detoxify microplastics, but I am certain that it can reduce inflammations that microplastic can cause, and oxidative stress as well. So I 100% concur to Moringa in reducing the inflammation that is caused by microplastic and oxidative stress as well. Though it is not yet proven that it can detoxify microplastics in human body. Not yet clinically proven, according to what I know. So even in dentistry, sometimes people, I don't know, they do about things using moringa and say, oh, moringa stopped something that was wrong with my oral tissue for so long. I boil the water, all this kind of a thing. So definitely, we call moringa wonder herb in Africa. In my own country, we call it a wonder herb because every day we keep on finding things that moringa can do consistently. Every new day we wake up finding new things that moringa herb can do, and when people test it out, it works wonder. So I really did not object to that. So that's it when it comes to the head part.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ushina. And if any of you have further questions to Dr. Papakwasi or in general regarding the topic, please feel free to contribute. We are about to end our call, so if there is no other burning questions, perhaps Dr. Ushina, you can wrap up what we have discussed today, and we also encourage you to see the post-webinar survey so that we can also hear all about your feedback and recommendations for topics to be discussed in further sessions. So back to you, Dr. Ushina.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Mona. I appreciate. So for me, particularly, I think I learned a lot, sincerely speaking. I am the kind of person that I like listening to keep on improving myself. So Dr. Papa Kwasi said a lot of things, and definitely I've been writing. I will keep on going through it, and that's the kind of person I am. So definitely, first of all, he started to speak to us that, whenever we talk about microplastic, and we think that it just does this kind of harm to the brain and heart only. Do you understand? But it's beyond that. It can really affect fertility, and also he gave statistics as well. So it made us understand that 40% can come from man and 40% from women, and also the remaining 20 that can come from other areas as well. So he also elaborated the types of microplastics we have, the primary, the secondary. So when it comes to the primary, he made mention of industrial pellets and microbeads. When it comes to the secondary, he spoke about the fragmentation of larger plastics as well. And also, he was able to talk about the persistence, bioaccumulative, globally distributed as well. So from there, he started to tell us that nanoplastic can be seen in our everyday life. It's not something that you run away from. Even environmental, almost the water everywhere, even in dentistry, the toothpaste we use contains, obviously, it contains microplastics as well. So it's not something that is part of our everyday life. So that's what he ended up saying, and which is true. And also he made a reference that Rwanda has reduced or declined the usage of nanoplastic as well. And he went on to talk about how it can really enter our body system through injection, inhalation, medical and dental as well. So let me just take us a little bit back. When he started, he just explained briefly what microplastic is. These are just plastic less than or smaller than 5 mm. So when it comes to how it affects the fertility, he spoke about they affect the hormones that helped in production of eggs and sperm. That was endocrine disruption, potential DNA and cellular damage as well. So in the female, you can see breast milk being passed through mother to the child, placenta, the connection between mother and the baby as well, the ovaries, the semen, the blood. These are channels through which microplastic can really penetrate the woman body. So he also spoke about exposure via ingestion, inhalation, dental contact, medical devices as well. So, lastly, the reduction. So he also spoke about the reduction in sperm count, how it can reduce the sperm count, because definitely this is what we really inject into our body system. It ends up entering the sperm and also probably the ovary as well. So the reduce of single-use plastics. That's the first point he listed. Improve weight management systems as well, and also the part of the natural coagulants, the herbs, just like what I mentioned previously, the moringa. What we call moringa in Nigeria is wonder herbs. So I think that's the conclusion for our meeting today. Thank you so much, and I appreciate every one of you for joining this meeting. And for me personally, I learned a lot, and I will keep on going through it and making more research on it. I believe there are more to this than what we just heard. I want to really appreciate Dr. Papakwasi for opening our eyes to understand more better on what microplastic can do. For me, I just think it's something like it just affect according to what he said, just affect your brain and heart. That's just it. But research is now like we end up understanding that it goes beyond that. It can really cause even there is a research that said that it can even cause diabetes and all those. So definitely it's not just small, it's something so wide and big, and we'll keep on learning. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, Dr. Papakwasi. And thank you to Professor Mona for this arranging this wonderful event. We really appreciate your time and also everything that you put together for this. And everyone that attended, Dr. Channel, thank you so much. I was actually in South Africa 3 days ago. I never knew that you were there. And South Africa is a wonderful place. So thank you so much for your contribution, and I can't really call names. The last person that spoke, I picked a lot of things from what you said. I really appreciate, sir. Thank you so much to every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uchina, for your amazing moderation and your wrapping up of what we have discussed. Dr. Papakwasi, much appreciation to you for your highly informative and very rich discussion that you walked us through. And all the participants here, Menzi, Chanel, and all the others, really, we are very grateful to your time and your knowledge shared. And without further ado, just we are reminding you of the post-webinar form to fill in. It's already posted in the chat box. Please provide your valuable feedback for us. And until next time, please do take great care of you, and bye-bye for now.